Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now y'all got to forgive me. I'm in my sauna. Try to get this here door closed without clipping out my video. And please bear with me. But something I want to talk to you about. And this is a concept that the Lord laid on my heart a long time ago, many years ago, as I was evaluating life, myself, friends, family, everything. And it's called seeds and weeds. And what that means is everywhere that God plants a seed, the devil plants a weed. And the goal of that weed is to choke out the life of that seed. Now that seed is your purpose. It's your gifts that lead to purpose. And your purpose, your gifts, your purpose could be anything. And then the weed is a vice or vices. And the goal of this is for every step that you take going forward, that weed calls you to take a step going backwards. So you can take and work on yourself, work on your goals, work on your gifts, and then alcohol, marijuana, pornography, infidelity, gambling, pills, drugs, fornication, idolatry, procrastination, crime, theft, fraud, lies. Like anything could be a vice. And the adversary's goal is that every step you take going forward, he makes you take 2 steps backwards. And the hope is that you'll never arrive. And so if you literally do this practice and you take 2 steps forward and then you take 2 steps backward, you really end up in the same place or going backwards 1 step at a time. And that's the goal of the weeds. And not literally, because, sometimes in a certain environment, the weeds might be there and might not choke out the life, or it might seem like it's coexisting. And then for you to pluck it up, you may be plucking up what has been birthed from that seed. But just speaking metaphorically, to where it's kind of like getting on the treadmill, but while you're on the treadmill, you eating a bucket of fried chicken and drinking a 6-pack of beer. So it's like, yes, you burning calories, but you putting the calories right back on. And you putting on bad calories from that chicken and that bread that you eating. And that's what I mean. And that's the goal of the adversary. And so we really have an opportunity to achieve greatness, and we have an opportunity to experience excellence, to experience a level of living that may feel like a slice of heaven. But in order to experience that, you got to have the discipline that the Holy Bible teaches, where it tells us to study the ant. It tells us not to spend too much time in slumber and folding of the arms. It tells us not to be a drunkard. It tells us not to fornicate, adulterate, lie, steal, covet, cheat. And it tells us to invest our talents, invest your money, multiply. It tells us to be fruitful, replenish the earth. So we given this instruction, and this instruction is intended to stretch us. It's intended to push us and get there. But the crazy part about it is it's extremely uncomfortable. Greatness is inspiring, but it's not comfortable to be around. Because greatness says no when mediocrity says yes. And greatness says yes when mediocrity says no. So you can be around friends and family, and your level of discipline can make them uncomfortable. And so, a lot of times, those of us who have greatness within us, which I believe everyone does, we feel awkward and we feel uncomfortable. And to a degree, we self sabotage to feel normal, to feel regular, because we've been sold a lie that sacrifice and discipline and consistency is not living. We've been told that those things are dull, not fun, that it's all work and no play. But the thing about discipline and true sacrifice, there's a byproduct, and that byproduct creates freedom. That byproduct creates fun. Like, let's say if every day you could create a winning routine, what I call $1 billion mornings, where you put together a winning recipe every morning to start your day the right way. And for everybody, it may be different. It may be just different elements. Like, for me, it may be doing cardio, lifting a little bit of weight, let my feet touch the ground, grounding, getting some sunlight, reading 2 chapters of the Bible, or listening to it, and just really taking time to myself to center myself, just to feel that gravity with my feet on the ground, and then go about the day. Having talk times, having rest times, having alone time, and then having strategic and calculated fuel for the body. What you drink, what you eat, what time you go to bed, what you watch, what you listen to, who you talk to, who you give time to. All of those types of things, and just having this curated and directed life. And the thing about that is consistency. And I saw a guy put in his bio, consistency is not enough. And I believe what he means is you can't just be consistent, you have to be disciplined. Because you can consistently drink, you can consistently smoke, you can consistently club, you can consistently fornicate, and it could be driving you the wrong way. It could be taking you the wrong way and you getting the wrong type of results. Or you can be consistently disciplined. And I heard a guy say that consistency is not enough. You got to be persistent. That when hard times hit, when tough things happen, you have to persist. And all of that is true. And everything is true for everybody in different ways, in different times, in different seasons. And we also got to identify when we're trying to mask our pain. We got to identify when we are running from our trauma. And we running from it instead of running through it. And we letting it break us. We letting it destroy us. And a lot of times we do things to take the edge off. So as adults, we might want some red wine, white wine, some whiskey, tequila. You might want some marijuana. You might want some fornication. You might want some gambling. And we do little things to try to take the edge off. But it just masks it for a moment. And then it comes back. So to truly get ahead and to truly advance in life, you got to get to a place, get to a point to where you can develop in the dark. And you can be very strategic. And you can be very consistent. and you can be very disciplined. And it's okay to have fun. It's okay to be regular. It's okay to chill. Like, it's okay to have opportunities to where you take the foot off the gas. Like, sometimes you got to take your foot off the gas and you got to refuel because you've been pedal to the metal for so long. Now you're running on E, and you got to pull over, and you got to refuel. And in that refueling period, you get the rest. There's rest stops for a reason. And I call it the road to destiny. I published the ebook. I don't know if it got took down or not for like not being formatted right or whatever, but I published an ebook called Road to Destiny. And on that Road to Destiny, what I was talking about is how the different rules to being on the road. And one of the rules is stay in your lane. Do what you call to do. Another rule is be careful picking up hitchhikers. Another rule is make sure that everybody riding with you got gas money, except for dependents. Another rule is don't spend too much time at the rest stop. People may catch you and pass you. Another rule is drive the speed limit. Know your pace. Don't try to go too fast. Don't go too slow. Find your pace and stick with your pace. And I believe the last rule is don't get caught looking in the rearview mirror for too long. And another rule is, I forgot this one, and maybe hopefully it's in there, is have a roadmap. For me, have your directions, your GPS. For me, GPS means God's positioning system. And there's been some people who have used that as well. But it means God's positioning system. And then for me, the roadmap is the Holy Bible. Because, as my father called it, BIBLE, basic instructions before leaving earth. Basic, B-I, instructions, B for before, L for leaving, E for earth. Basic instructions before leaving earth. And those instructions are so powerful. And yes, they could be considered basic, but like what we call that is practical. But even though it's basic and practical, it's still yet profound. And the results that you receive from those instructions are beyond measure. So what the Lord is telling me is he's reminding me of that old adage that says, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. Like, you gotta risk looking crazy. You gotta risk being talked about. You gotta risk being ostracized, being alienated. You gotta risk being cut off. You gotta risk being separated. Something God gave me a long time ago is separation before elevation. And it went viral, and I seen a lady talking about, oh, that's her quote and all that. Hers was something else, like, so it was like inverse. But, God give the same things to his messengers. But what it came to me from is, as I was reading the Bible, I realized that God would send people to the wilderness. Like, Jesus had to go to the wilderness 40 days, 40 nights. And I believe John the Baptist was sent to the wilderness. And those were, two people that God truly, truly used. And he would separate you before he elevated you. And that's where I got that from. It's a biblical principle. I believe the lady who said it was her quote. I don't even know if she was a Christian or even read the Bible. But for me, it's a biblical principle. And sometimes the thing about it is you have to be separated within your own home. Like, you might live with your parents and you got to live different. You might live with your spouse and you got to live different. You might live with your siblings and you got to live different. You might have a roommate, a friend, or a family member, and you got to live different. Like, being separated don't mean that you're not around anybody. What it means is you separate in your choices. You separate in your decisions. And that's what's going to change you for the better. So understand that there's been seeds planted in you, and you got to recognize those seeds that's been planted, your gifts, your passions, your purpose, and then recognize your vices, recognize the weeds. And then make sure that you can pluck the weeds before, and without plucking up the seeds. Make sure you could pluck the weeds, and make sure that you do that before the weeds choke the life out of your seeds. And understand that your seeds could be your children. And that's who you living for, to inspire them so that they can carry the torch and they can be great where you were average at. And it ain't gonna be easy. I'm here to tell you, like, I'm not the most disciplined person in every area. In the areas that don't feed my family, I'm not the most disciplined person. Like, me getting on the treadmill don't feed my family. Me going to work feed my family, so I'm disciplined in that area. But the areas that feed me, the areas that feed my spirit, the areas that feed my mind, the areas that feed my body, I'm not always the most consistent. And to be honest with you, I self-sabotage because I'm afraid to go in that zone. I'm afraid to go in that mode and not be light. I'm afraid to go in that mode and to be too different, to be too rare. And so I self-sabotage just trying to fit in, trying to be like everybody else. And that's the confusion of the adversary. That's what he wants us to do. And what I found, people who they've lost an arm, they've lost a leg, they've lost a facial feature, they've lost the organ. Life took something from them that made them shift their mindset. I heard a man give a speech one time, and he didn't have any legs. His legs was blown off while being deployed in war. IED blew up and took his legs, and he said in his speech, he said, don't run, don't keep running from your calling until you lose your legs. He said he was running from his purpose, from his calling, and God allowed him to lose his legs so that he could no longer run. And that happens a lot. And so it would be unfair to compare yourself to somebody who has gone through a life-altering or a near-death experience because they've received their motivation. And not to take anything away from them, because they still could choose to be an alcoholic, a drug addict, but they're choosing to be sober. They're choosing to be disciplined. They're choosing to be focused. They're choosing to be consistent. But where your superpower is being able to learn from their life stories and being able to make a change and get it right before you have to lose it all. And I work with a lot of pro athletes, college athletes, even high school athletes. And I tell them, I say, I was so gifted and I didn't take it serious. Like, I went to play Division II football, and it was a lot of Division II players that made it to the NFL. On my team, it was guys who got NFL workouts. And I was the most all-around athletic player on my team out of 95 players. And I took it for granted. And 3 years into my full scholarship, which was $28,400 a year, I was kicked off my team. And it wasn't still that I didn't take it serious at 21. It wasn't until 23 that I turned over a new leaf and I started to get serious, and I still backslid. And it really wasn't until 25 that I really, really locked in. And it changed my life. I went from being a womanizer and a player to being a married man, 100% faithful. I went from being abusive to being compassionate, patient. I went from being a drug dealer to being an author and a speaker and a life coach, consultant. I went from being a thief to being 100% honest and integral. Like, my whole life changed, and I went from a byproduct of that I went from earning $20,000 a year, working 40 hours a week, to earning millions, over a million, working 7 hours a week. Now I got to work a lot more than that. Now the economy done changed, but I'm still in a position where I can earn 7 figures. Still have the clarity and the wisdom to create companies that can earn 8, 9 figures. And maybe even one day sell or earn 10 figures. And so, but that came from that sacrifice, that discipline, that shift, that change. And that's what I want you to realize and understand, that that change and that shift is available to you, but you got to choose it. You got to choose it. So I'm not preaching to you, I'm talking to myself. And even how you see this extra weight in my face right here, these little chubby cheeks, Lord willing, you get to see these cheekbones before long. Lord willing, you get to see chisel, fully in shape, fully healthy. And you get to see that the oil run from the head. God anoints the head of the household. And that oil flows from the head to your children, to your friends, your family, your spouse. And that's what we got to realize and understand. So, hey, this Tony Gaxton. I'm going to go and close this door. Let this heat go back up. Only got 4 more minutes in here. But God bless you. Keep your head up. Keep going. And we'll be in touch.